Yeah, I was just going to point out there's some things that we've just heard, I think, over the course of last night to this morning. I don't know if they're already in the media space about licensing rounds and what have you. But then the government has been talking about raising forex, which is their primary aim. When you say that some of these things can be sold in the Nigerian stock market, which I hear is also one of the plans, because I was listening to radio this morning on my way to work, and those are some of the things I heard over the radio. They said that one of the things that was said was that they're going to be going to the Nigerian stock market, but that they're also looking to raise forex. How do you think that government can raise forex? Do you think that private investors will be I'm wondering how the balance between raising naira to finance the budget and also raising forex. How important is this balance in terms of the sale of assets that government intends to undergo?
Excellent question, Malcolm. Thank you very much. I think, like I mentioned earlier, there are various methods through which government can sell its interest in various companies. The sales through the Nigerian Stock Exchange is just one of them. But there's also something known as the core investor sale, where a significant block, 30, 40, 50%, is sold to a qualified investor, the investor that has the requisite technical, financial, and management know-how. Now, historically, we have seen that for those kind of transactions, particularly in the heavy industries, those that have the technical expertise are usually foreign entities or foreign companies, right, who have been doing this for hundreds of years in their own local markets and internationally. Now, those caliber of investors will typically come in, they will bid for the assets, they will pay in foreign exchange. So to a reasonable extent, a significant proportion of the proceeds from the sale will come in US dollars. But government will always keep a residual amount, maybe a 20% or a 10%, that will be sold via the Nigerian Stock Exchange. That is what the Nigerian populace can buy using Naira to fund. So we will actually have a combination of FX and Naira proceeds, but I suspect that the FX proceeds will be significantly higher than the Naira ones.
From the way this conversation is going, where you see political class throwing their weight behind this, one wonders, do you really think that they will listen to what Nigerians are saying, or they'll just say, give us some time? After a while, we will do what we have to do.
Thank you. Again, I must reiterate that we get the government we deserve as a people. I think we're at the point now where we really, really need to get involved. We must call government out on every single decision they make. If they make the right decisions, we must commend them. If they make the wrong decisions, we must point it out. We must profile alternative solutions. So we must always, there has to be greater engagement with government. So I recognize the skepticism amongst Nigerians because we've been around the block several times. A lot of promises have been broken severally. And this government in 18 or 16 months or so, seems to still be struggling to get off the ground. So I understand the skepticism, but I believe that if we're holding government accountable, if we're making a lot of noise, we're using social media, we're using electronic media, we're using the law courts to enforce our rights through the Freedom of Information Act, I believe we can hold government accountable because the assets we're talking about belong to all Nigerians. So any decisions concerning those assets must be for the ultimate benefit of Nigerians. And the Nigerian public must be able to see that upfront, that this sale will benefit us. And we will back it up, I am sure.
Who should be talking now? Because everything, I think, rests on the information. You started off by saying that no one is talking. There's depth of information concerning this. And that is why we get into here a lot of comments from people and even Nigerians. And now we have termed it a debate because they haven't given us the details. First, who should be the one speaking up on this one so that we know how to go about this?
Excellent. I think that we're making some progress in the communication space. At the onset of this administration, in my view, communication was next to zero. In the last few months, there has been an increased tempo. The ministers individually are addressing the press, they are sharing thoughts. The economic management team is having retreats and seminars. They're having quarterly business briefings with all of that. Now, what I am struggling with, or what needs to be remedied, is that there has to be uniformity in the engagement, right? There must also be due process. So the president has just appointed the CEOs for 13 government agencies. That was announced yesterday. There are hundreds of other positions that are yet to be filled. So you have a situation in Nigeria today where ministers are carrying out the functions that the board of the various parastatals should be carrying out. Now, that in itself is a landmine, because certain decisions that are taken by ministers may be challenged in future in the court of law because due process has not been followed. So what I want government to do is take a step back, go to the drawing board, list out all the critical agencies that we need to get our economy going, make sure they are sufficiently manned, put the right people in the right places, inaugurate those boards, commission them, swear them in, whatever it is you need to do. Let them all have an agenda which is fed into the economic management team, and somebody comes out and gives us a holistic picture of what this government intends to do over the remaining 2.5 years of its life.
If I could take a step back on myself here and ask, if they were to even sell these assets, assuming all was well, everybody agrees, how does this give us a long-term solution to this challenge?
Well, if they were to sell the assets, and sell the assets to the right people, because that is the most critical. You know, it's not enough to sell an asset. If you sell it to the wrong bidder who lacks the technical capacity, who has no management know-how, who has no financial muscle, then nothing will change, right? But if you sell to the right bidder, if you follow due process and the most qualified bidder emerges, what will happen is, first and foremost, the drain pipe on the National Treasury will stop. So all of our taxpayers' monies, which are going to pay salaries, wages, and advance and allowances to public sector entities, will stop. So you then have companies that will be turned around. In terms of capacity, they will grow. They will employ more people. They will become profitable. Once they become profitable, they start paying taxes. So Mr. Tunde Fowler's target of raising trillions of naira in taxes are better served.
So I can rest. He won't have to come tax me much more. He won't come and
chase you for breathing air. You know. So what is required is for government to allow private sector monitor them. Government's role is supposed to be regulator and enabler. Once you fulfill those two parts, then the private sector will thrive. They will create the employment. They will bring the tax revenues you need.
That then suggests that the NLNG, our stake, I think it's about 49%. Correct. It wouldn't pop up here because that's doing very well. Absolutely. Over $48 billion in the last 5 years. Correct. So they should be looking at the non-critical ones to bring them, make them viable and earn us more hard currency. But who knows if at the end of the day they'll have that robust conversation and debate about how this will go. It shouldn't be just in the Senate, should it?
No, it should be everywhere. Every Nigerian must get involved.
All right, then we will okay, we'll take another break. I'll be back in just a moment. Join us again. Our concluding moments now with Mr. Rotimi. I mean, this conversation brings many wondering, does that suggest that government have come to their wits' end? And besides, nobody seems to be focusing a lot more on government coming up with policies to protect manufacturing companies here against foreign ones. It looks as if we're shifting that conversation to just sell and forex.
Well, thank you. I think the Nigerian government, this current administration, walked into what you will describe as a perfect storm. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. But having said that, what do we do? How do we get out of here? In a way, I feel we needed to have gotten here. We needed to hit rock bottom and hopefully then come up with a proper plan of action. This is a perfect opportunity to diversify the economy. This is a perfect opportunity to get certain critical areas of the economy that had been hitherto neglected. This is the time to bring them back. So the SMEs, who are the engine room of any economy, this is the time for government to come out with a slew of products and programs to get these people off the floor where they currently are today. So they need access to long-term, decently priced, sustainable funding. They need tax benefits. They need capacity building. My view is that government should, whilst we are trying to deal with the quick wins, and there are a number of quick wins, but there are also some fundamental things that will take a bit longer, but ultimately will better serve this economy. So a focus on the SMEs, a focus on our agro processing potential, so that we can maximize the value we derive from our primary products. So there is a lot of positives in the Nigerian story. It is really for us to put our heads down as a government, as a people, work together and try to achieve this potential.
And the process in which you talked about, very vital here, because I mean, if you plant all you can, if you don't have that process right,
correct,
you could just end up maybe the way cocoa happens across the world. You just end up buying the chocolate.
Absolutely.
And some see for the first time who produced that product. Well, I have to thank you for coming on this morning. Bayo Rotimi is an economic and financial analyst. We've been taking a look at the sale or otherwise of national assets, even though they need to tell us, is it the critical or non-critical ones here? Well, this conversation continues, but we have to flip to Magbe. We've got another perspective from another guest who Magbe should tell us about. Magbe?